Greetings and salutations, comrade. Just wanted to highlight another passage from this amazing book, State and Revolution by, why is it so, Vladimir, where are you? Vladimir Lenin. Anyways, this particular chapter or passage I'm reading from page 93 for your reference deals with the distinction between Marxists and anarchists, and I found this particularly interesting because I used to be somewhat more of the anarchist persuasion, and I've kind of come to seeing the errors in my ways with thinking that is the political ideology or state that we should be working towards right now, when in fact we should be working towards the lower stage of communism, socialism, and working towards the highest stage of socialism, which is communism, stateless, classless world. But in order to do that, we need to first have socialism in place, dictatorship of the proletariat. So, quote, the distinction between Marxists and anarchists is this. One, the former, so Marxists, while claiming at the complete abolition of the state, recognizes this aim can only be achieved after classes have been abolished by the socialist revolution. As a result of the establishment of socialism, which leads to the withering away of the state. So again, you have to have the dictatorship of the proletariat, and then dictatorship of the proletariat, i.e. socialism, suppressing the capitalist, the bourgeoisie class, and through that the state withers away, versus anarchists just say, well, fuck it all, let's just all blow it up now without having that withering away of the state first. Big distinction. The latter, so anarchists, the latter want to abolish the state completely overnight, not understanding the conditions under which the state can be abolished. Exactly. Kind of important, right? What conditions would you actually be able to abolish the state? You'd first need the state to wither away through a dictatorship of the proletariat, okay? It's not what most anarchists think or talk about, because again, that's not anarchism, that's Marxism. That's working towards the lower stage of communism, socialism, and working towards the highest stage of communism, which is a stateless and classless society and world. Two, the former Marxists, the former recognize that after the proletariat has won political power, it must completely destroy the old state machinery and replace it by a new one consisting of an organization of the armed workers after the type of the commune. So I think that's where a lot of people on the left go really wrong when they talk about wanting to take people's guns away. We should not be taking the guns away from the working class. And if we think that gun control is going to stop any of these mass shooting events, I think you're completely mistaken. If you really wanted to address gun violence, we would look to the root causes: white supremacy, U.S. empire. I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of these mass shooters were in the military, or were in it, or were still in it when they committed these shootings. And it's kind of chickens coming home to roost in a sense. Maybe introducing universal health care, so everybody has adequate access to health care, including mental health, a living wage. All these things would be a much better use of time and resources than trying to take people's guns away, which again work towards dictatorship of the proletariat, arm the workers. They would be able to suppress and oppose the capitalist class pretty easily, because we'd have the numbers, get rid of the police, get rid of the military as well. the latter, so anarchists, while insisting on the destruction of the state machine, have a very vague idea of what the proletariat will put in its place and how it will use its revolutionary power. I think that's fairly true from a lot of what I've seen and read from different, anarchists, whether online or in print, is that just get rid of the state, do it overnight. We don't need it. Not really gonna think about very deeply of what it's going to replace. It's like, that's kind of a huge important step and something that Marx and other Marxists have thought about. That's why Marxism and socialism working towards communism makes a lot more sense to me. You have that intermediary step where the state would be able to wither away in those conditions. The anarchists don't really, again, give much thought to that, do they? The anarchists even deny that the revolutionary proletariat should use the state power. They reject its revolutionary dictatorship. What? No. 3. The former demand that the proletariat be trained for revolution by utilizing the present state. The anarchists reject this. I mean, again, you really need to concretely analyze the concrete conditions around you. Like, okay, if we want to install socialism and work towards communism, which again is simply a stateless and classless society world, we need that intermediary step. We need the dictatorship of the proletariat. We need the workers to be able to utilize the current state apparatus to oppress the capitalists, to oppress the bourgeoisie, so we can actually have a democracy of the majority as opposed to what we have now, a democracy for the minority, for the capitalists, for the bourgeoisie, for the owner class. And obviously they're using as apparatus, the machinery of the state, of the military, of the police to oppress the majority, us, the workers. So I think that is very foolish for anarchists to think that, no, we shouldn't use that state power in transitioning in this socialist transition period, working towards, again, that communist ideal, that higher phase of communism. I think that is fucking ridiculous and utopian. Like, what the fuck? What are you gonna, you're not willing to use that state machinery, then how are you going to actually make sure this is a prolonged revolution and so the capitalists aren't able to come back into power? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. If you are an anarchist, I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Please do tell. In this controversy, it is not Kautsky, but Pannekoek, who represents Marxism, for it was Marx who taught that the proletariat cannot simply win state power in the sense that the old state apparatus passes into new hands, but must smash the state apparatus, must break it, and replace it by a new one, a dictatorship of the proletariat. Kautsky abandons Marxism for the opportunist camp for this destruction of the state machine, which is utterly unacceptable to the opportunist, completely disappears from his argument, and he leaves a loophole for them in that conquest may be interpreted as the simple acquisition of a majority. To cover up his distortion of Marxism, Kautsky behaves like a doctrinaire. He puts forward a quotation from Marx himself. In 1850, Marx wrote that a resolute centralization of power in the hands of the state authority was necessary, and Kautsky triumphantly asked, does Pannekoek want to destroy centralism? This is simply a trick like Bernstein's identification of the views of Marxism and Proudhonism on the subject of federalism as against centralism. Let's see. I like this. That page 94. The proletariat is oppressed. The working people are enslaved by capitalism. Under capitalism, democracy is restricted, cramped, curtailed, mutilated by all the conditions of wage slavery and the poverty and misery of the people. This and this alone is the reason why the functionaries of our political orgs and trade unions are corrupted, or rather tend to be corrupted by the conditions of capitalism and betray a tendency to become bureaucrats, i.e. privileged persons divorced from the people and standing above the people, which I think one of the things I really liked, I think Lenin, maybe Marx too, I forget, but one or both of them talked about how, these elected people from the, workers' councils would be paid a standard wage. They wouldn't have any special privileges, and they would be able to be recalled at any time by the people that put them in office. Imagine if we had that current capability. Obviously, we would never have that because under capitalism, the system is completely corrupted. The system is only set up, only designed to work for the capitalists, for the people with power, with wealth, with means, to crush popular sentiment of the working class. Pretty interesting, right? That is the essence of bureaucracy. And until capitalists have been expropriated and the bourgeoisie overthrown, super important, by dictatorship of the proletariat, armed worker councils, even proletarian functionaries will inevitably be bureaucratized to a certain extent. This is exactly where he's wrong. Marx, referring to the example of the commune, showed that under socialism, functionaries will cease to be bureaucrats. To be officials, they will cease to be so in proportion as an addition of the principle of elected officials. Here we go. Exactly what I was talking about. The principle of recall at any time is also introduced as salaries are reduced to the level of wages of the average workman, and as parliamentary institutions are replaced by working bodies, executive and legislative, at the same time. I mean, how can you argue against this? I mean, goddamn, this dude just spits absolute fire. Highly recommend this book, and I really like the quote on the back from the book. Obviously, all revolutions which have taken place up to the present have helped to perfect the state machinery, whereas it must be shattered and broken to pieces. So again, I think the distinction between anarchists and Marxists is very important and worth highlighting. That's why I read this chapter and commented on it, as well as the fact, arm the workers. Workers need to be armed, as well as the fact, like, having these worker councils where elected by the people, but they're paid average working class salaries. They don't have any special privileges like people in our Congress, in our Senate do right now, where I believe they are paid, are they paid in perpetuity for life, like their salary, which is almost $200K a year, quite a bit more than an average working man's salary, right? With all of these amazing health and benefits and club access, gyms and stuff like that. We don't have that, right? Why do they have that? They're supposed to be serving us, but they get put up on this pedestal with all of these special privileges. It's fucked up. Under a dictatorship of the proletariat working towards communism, we wouldn't have that under communism, obviously, because that's simply, again, a classless and stateless society. And being able to recall these elected officials at any time, that would be pretty fucking amazing, right? Those are my thoughts. Share yours in the comment sections down below. Peace, much love, all power to the people.